A mansion built on perfect lies. The mansion stood at the edge of the city like a symbol of success everyone admired. People slowed their cars just to look at it, whispering about how lucky the owner must be to live such a perfect life. Inside, sunlight poured through tall glass windows, touching expensive furniture, crystal chandeliers, and polished floors. Yet behind that shine lived something invisible: fear that had been dressed up as care, control disguised as kindness, and silence that had been taught to smile. No one visiting the mansion ever imagined that the most broken soul inside sat quietly by a window, believing she deserved the cage she lived in. The millionaire everyone respected. Adrian Cross built his empire from nothing. He was known for shaking hands with workers, donating to orphanages, and speaking about humility at public events. People trusted him because he looked honest, spoke gently, and never flaunted his wealth. Adrian believed that money should protect people, not harm them. What he didn't realize was that even a good heart can be blinded when love wears the mask of goodness. While the world praised him, a painful truth was growing inside his own home right under his watch. The fiancée who seemed too kind. Lydia Hale was admired by everyone who met her. She spoke softly, moved carefully, and always appeared concerned for others. At charity dinners, she held Adrian's arm and smiled warmly at guests. She was especially praised for caring so devotedly for her younger sister, Mara, who lived in a wheelchair. Lydia often said, "Family is my whole life," and people believed her without question. No one noticed how her kindness carried rules, how her concern demanded obedience, or how her love left no room for freedom. The silent girl in the wheelchair. Mara spent most of her days near the large window overlooking the garden. She watched birds fly freely while she remained still, hands folded in her lap. Her voice was rarely heard, and when it was, it sounded unsure, like she feared saying the wrong thing. Lydia told everyone Mara had lost the ability to walk in an accident years ago. Doctors, she claimed, had given up hope. What Lydia never mentioned was how fear had replaced medicine, how control had taken the place of care, and how Mara had been taught that standing up would destroy the only love she had left. The poor boy who watched from the gate. Eli was just a boy with torn clothes and dusty hands, sweeping the road outside the mansion gates every day. He had no parents, no proper home, and no one who listened to him. People passed him without noticing, tossing coins or ignoring him completely. But Eli noticed everything. He watched how people walked, how they spoke, and how their eyes changed when no one was looking. From his place near the gate, he saw things that wealth and comfort had made invisible to others. Eyes that spoke without words. Eli noticed how Mara's legs never hung loosely the way a paralyzed person's would. He saw her feet push lightly against the ground when she thought no one was watching. He noticed how her breathing changed whenever Lydia entered the room, how her shoulders stiffened in fear. Most of all, Eli noticed Mara's eyes that silently begged for help but had learned to stay quiet. Those eyes reminded Eli of his own loneliness, of how silence can be louder than screams. Whispers the rich never hear. The rich came and went through those gates, talking on phones, laughing loudly, focused on their own lives. None of them noticed the quiet suffering happening just a few steps away. Eli whispered his thoughts to himself while sweeping, unsure if anyone would ever believe a poor boy like him. But the weight of the truth grew heavier every day. Silence began to feel like a sin, and fear started to feel less powerful than guilt. She can walk. One afternoon, Adrian stopped near the gate to take a phone call. Eli felt his heart pounding as if it might break through his chest. Summoning every bit of courage he had, he stepped forward and spoke the words that had been burning inside him for weeks. "She can walk," he said quietly. Adrian looked confused. Eli swallowed hard and added, "Your fiancé won't let her." The world seemed to pause in that moment, as if even the wind was waiting to hear what would happen next. A truth spoken in fear. At first, Adrian smiled politely, thinking the boy was mistaken or confused. But something in Eli's trembling voice made him stop. The fear was real. Eli explained how he had seen Mara stand late at night, holding onto furniture, crying silently. He spoke of how she sat back down quickly whenever Lydia appeared. Each word shook Adrian's confidence, planting a doubt that refused to disappear. The millionaire's first doubt. That night, Adrian lay awake staring at the ceiling. Lydia slept peacefully beside him, unaware that her perfect image had begun to crack. Adrian replayed Eli's words again and again. He remembered moments he had ignored: Mara's nervous smiles, her silence, her avoidance of physical therapy. For the first time, Adrian questioned whether love had blinded him to cruelty. Locked doors and forced smiles. Over the next few days, Adrian paid closer attention. He noticed how Mara's door was often locked. How Lydia answered questions for her. How smiles were expected, not offered. What once seemed like care now looked like control. The mansion felt different, heavier, as if the walls themselves knew the truth. Kindness that felt like control. Lydia always spoke gently, but her words carried invisible chains. She reminded Mara how weak she was, how dangerous the world could be, how only she could keep her safe. Slowly, those words had shaped Mara's reality, convincing her that obedience was survival and silence was love. The wheelchair that hid a prison. The wheelchair became more than a chair. It became a symbol of fear, of years lost to manipulation. It rolled smoothly across the floor, hiding the truth that Mara's legs were stronger than her spirit had been allowed to be. Love tested by one question. When Adrian finally asked if Mara could ever walk again, Lydia's answer came too quickly. Too firm. Too fearful. In that moment, love and truth collided, and only one could survive. The night the lies began to crack. Late one night, Adrian removed the wheelchair's footrest and gently encouraged Mara to place her feet on the floor. She trembled, tears streaming down her face, terrified of what standing might cost her. When she stood and did not fall, years of lies collapsed in silence. Tears that were never allowed. Mara cried like a child who had been holding her breath for years. She spoke of threats, of guilt, of being told she was nothing without Lydia. Adrian listened, his heart breaking with every word. A confrontation behind closed doors. The confrontation was unavoidable. Lydia's calm shattered, revealing anger, desperation, and fear of losing control. Excuses turned into accusations, and love revealed its true face. The boy who refused to stay silent. Eli watched from a distance, unsure if he had done the right thing. When Adrian thanked him, tears filled the boy's eyes. For the first time, someone powerful had listened to someone powerless. Proof hidden in plain sight. Doctors confirmed what fear had hidden for years. Mara was never paralyzed. Only imprisoned by manipulation. When the wheelchair moved. As Mara took her first steps in the open garden, the wheelchair stood abandoned behind her, a silent witness to a lie that no longer ruled her life. The fiancée's mask fell. Lydia left the mansion, taking nothing but her secrets. The image she had built collapsed under the weight of truth. A sister finally stood up. Mara's journey to healing was slow but real. Each step forward was a victory over years of fear. Guilt louder than any lie. Adrian carried guilt for what he had failed to see. He promised himself never to ignore quiet voices again. Justice wrapped in compassion. He chose justice without cruelty, believing healing mattered more than revenge. The millionaire chose humanity. Wealth no longer defined Adrian. His actions did. Freedom felt like first steps. For Mara, walking meant more than movement, it meant choice. A home where truth could breathe. The mansion transformed from a prison into a place of honesty and warmth. The poor boy's life changed forever. Eli's life changed, but his humility remained. He never forgot the power of speaking up. Kindness that broke every chain. One act of courage destroyed years of control. Some secrets cannot survive love. Truth always finds its way to light. A future rewritten by courage. Lives were rewritten because one boy refused silence. Healing takes time, but it begins. Pain fades slowly, but hope grows daily. Where lies end, kindness begins. And in that mansion, kindness finally learned how to tell the truth.